The family of Tyree Nichols plans to lay him to rest today, 3 weeks after he died following a brutal beating by Memphis police after a traffic stop. The Reverend Al Sharpton will deliver the eulogy, and civil rights attorney Ben Crump will deliver a call to action. Sharpton joined the family and supporters at a press conference last night.
We are going to continue to fight this fight around police brutality and killing until we get federal laws changed. What happened to Tyree is a disgrace to this country. There's no other way to describe what has happened in this situation.
5 officers were fired and charged with murder, and their specialized unit was disbanded. 2 more officers have been suspended. 2 Memphis Fire Department emergency medical workers and a lieutenant were also fired. More discipline could be coming. Vice President Kamala Harris plans to attend the funeral today. Those also expected to attend include Tamika Palmer, the mother of Breonna Taylor, who was shot dead in her home in a botched police raid; Philanese Floyd, the brother of George Floyd, who was murdered when a Minneapolis police officer knelt on his neck for more than 9 minutes; the brother of Stephon Clark, killed in his backyard in Sacramento while holding a cell phone; and the mother of Eric Garner, who said "I can't breathe" 11 times while pinned to the ground by a Staten Island police officer. Today marks the 2nd-year anniversary of the military coup in Myanmar. The Biden administration announced it's imposing sanctions on a group of people and organizations connected to the military regime. Opponents of the junta warned at the United Nations the military's plan to stage elections later this year is an attempt to legitimize an illegal coup. Eileen Alfandary has more.
During the past 2 years, the junta has battled peaceful protesters and strikers and an increasingly active armed insurgency. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Myanmar, Tom Andrews, says the junta is trying to legitimize its rule by calling elections for later this year. Andrews said other nations and election monitoring groups should not aid and abet the junta by providing technical support or recognition to the upcoming elections.
You cannot have a free and fair election when you arrest, detain, torture, and execute leaders of the opposition. You cannot have an election when it is against the law for journalists to do their job. You cannot have a legitimate, free, and fair election when it is a criminal act to criticize the junta.
According to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, the junta has killed more than 2,900 people, including 165 children since the coup, and arrested more than 17,000. I'm Eileen Alfandary for Pacifica Radio.
Pope Francis is in Africa and urged the people of Congo to find it in their hearts to forgive those who have harmed them. Francis made the appeal during a mass before an estimated 1 million people today. His comments translated by Al Jazeera.
We need to believe that we, Christians, are called to cooperate with everyone, to break the cycle of violence, to dismantle the machinations of hatred. Yes, Christians sent by Christ are called by definition to be a conscience of peace in our world.
The Mass is Francis's first big event in the Congo and comes on a day dedicated to his call for peace and forgiveness in a country devastated by decades of violence. Up to 500,000 workers are on strike across the United Kingdom in what's shaping up to be the largest day of industrial action Britain has seen in more than a decade. Thousands of schools closed, some or all of their classrooms, train services are paralyzed, and delays are expected at airports as teachers, university staff, civil servants, border officials, and train and bus drivers join a mass walkout. Today's strikes mark an escalation of disruptive actions across multiple key industries. In the United Kingdom, unions are stepping up pressure on the government to demand better pay as wages fail to keep pace with soaring inflation. In the U.S., Democrats renewed calls to pass the Equal Rights Amendment yesterday that would give equal legal rights to women and men. The renewed push follows the overturn of abortion rights at the Supreme Court. Edwin J. Vieira reports.
The idea was first presented nearly a century ago and passed by Congress in 1972. It failed to gain ratification by the required 34 states by the deadline in 1982. A total of 38 states have ratified it at one time, and 5 have since rescinded their votes, so it would require a new round of voting to be added to the Constitution. Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono feels had it passed then, it could have affected recent historic decisions.
I agree with the scholars who say that if the ERA had been in effect, perhaps the Supreme Court would have had to pause before doing away with protections under Roe, because they would be discriminating against pretty much a gender-specific medical procedure.
I'm Edwin J. Vieira for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Forecasters say an icy storm already blamed for 6 deaths are causing dangerous conditions for a third day in several states in the South. Weather watches and warnings stretch from Texas to West Virginia. More than 1,400 flights scheduled today were canceled. The list for cancellations includes both major airports in Dallas and Austin, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.